Okay. I'd like to call to order the Woodland Park Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, August 22nd. Roll call, please.
Sure. Donna Salem,
Present.
Jared Newcomb,
Present.
Ken Kennedy noted he's having trouble logging in, so we may not see him. Larry Larson,
Here.
Don Hoying,
Here.
Cole Middleton,
Here.
and Chair Hartsfield.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the approval of the minutes from April 25th meeting. Any comments or corrections from the commissioners? No corrections, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done, so. Minutes are approved. Tonight, we have a public hearing. First case, only case, is CUP SPR extension of Fred's Towing, conditional use permit and site plan. DJ, are you presenting tonight?
If I can get my microphone on, there we go. Yes, sir, thank you. Again, the item before you tonight is a conditional use permit and site plan approval extension request by MVE and Gino LLC, and this is for the entitlement for Fred's Towing. The site is a 2.55 acre parcel of land east of Highway 24, south of Mountain Glen Drive in the southeastern portion of Woodland Park. The subject property is zoned community commercial, as you guys can see here on this slide. The site is accessed via an access easement from the parcel to the north, which is currently occupied by the gas station. You pass concrete, sand, and gravel, which is not inside of city limits, is located to the south. There are existing mature evergreen trees and steep rocky terrain located on the property's western perimeter, which is adjacent to Highway 24. This terrain acts as a screen for the property as viewed from Highway 24, as seen from the site photos on this slide. The top photo here is the view from Highway 24 traveling eastbound, and the bottom photo is from Highway 24 traveling westbound. For reference, this slide is the approved preliminary site plan, which includes a 3,500 square foot structure that is planned to be used for an office space and storage of vehicles. The right-hand side of the slide is the rendering of the proposed building. And just a little bit of a project history for you guys here. So on June 2nd of 2022, the City Council approved a conditional use permit and site plan review to allow for a tow company to construct and utilize a commercial building with a vehicle storage on the subject property. And this was via ordinance 1423 series 2022. And just as a refresher, once an applicant or an application for a CUP gets its entitlement, they must apply for and gain approval of a final site plan, which is processed administratively through the planning department. Since City Council approved the CUP and site plan, the final site plan and construction document package has gone through several rounds of review through the planning department. The most recent submittal was received by planning staff just on August 14th of this year, and is currently being reviewed by city staff. As noted, on July 16th, 2024, the planning department received an application for the request of a 2-year extension of the approved conditional use permit and site plan. While no zoning development permit has been issued, the applicant has been pursuing approval since January of 2023. Additionally, even though the extension application was submitted after the expiration date of the approval, which was June 2nd of this year, planning staff is supportive of extending the approvals due to the ongoing work of the applicant. If the extension request is approved, the CUP entitlement will expire on June 2nd of 2026. The extension application was sent to the referral agents listed here on the slide, and no comments have been received. And I will say just on this, I did receive an email today from CDOT, which they are currently going through the applicant's submittal for their access permit. So that is considered a referral here, so. And lastly, as there are no regulations to assess, staff does not have a position or recommendation on this extension request. If the planning commission finds that the extension is warranted, then the planning commission should recommend that city council grant the 2-year extension of the conditional use permit and site plan, with the approving resolution clearly stating that the development is still subject to all conditions and dimensional standards specified within the original approval. This concludes my presentation. We also have the landowner, Mike Sarkozy, and the applicant, Chuck Chrome, in attendance tonight. If you guys have any questions for them.
Do have a question for you, CJ.
Sure.
CDOT, did they have comments on the original submittal?
We can double check that here.
Nothing's changed in what's being proposed.
Nothing is being changed of what's being proposed from the original CUP from 2022. So the applicant has been working with CDOT, so it's pretty standard operating procedures. Once they get their entitlement, they work with CDOT to get their access permit. If the site is accessed off of 24 or 67 in the case of Woodland Park. So.
Any other questions from commission at this time?
I realize this would have been covered in the original application, but I'm just trying to understand in terms of what of this is conditional. It could seem like most, if not all of this, would be under a normal permitted use for this zoning.
Okay, so that has to do with our use table in the regulations that lists all the different uses in the zone districts and where a use is permitted or use by right versus one that requires additional review. And so the title of this is called a conditional use permit. And there's a code section that talks about the philosophy behind a conditional use permit. And I can't remember it off the top of my head. We can pull that up for you. Because I got multiple codes in my head and I'm going to tell you the wrong municipalities.
1857.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking through the table of permitted uses and I was just curious because it just seemed like everything they planned to do would have been I would have thought might have been a permitted use.
Yeah. So it starts right at the very beginning of the codes section 1857, 010A. It explains that uses designated as conditional uses are contingent uses, not allowed by right or condition. They may or may not be appropriate in a particular location, depending upon the nature of the use itself, its relationship to vicinity land uses, its impact on the environmental, social, and economic matters, and its effect upon the health, safety, and welfare of the city and its citizens. So because of that, it gives you that opportunity, you as the planning commission, to review in more detail, make recommendations, suggestions or modifications to what's being proposed, and then send that recommendation on to city council for their final approval. And per our, I believe it's actually in our charter, conditional uses require an ordinance for its initial approval. So there's a first and a second reading before something potentially is approved by council.
Any other comments at this point?
And I guess the only other thing I would add is that this use did go through that initial detailed
I'm
kind of
just trying to
review.
understand. I'm not really questioning.
Yeah,
Sure.
well, and because there's other times when staff has brought forward extension requests and we have not provided as much background on what the application is and what was approved. This time we did a little more in-depth of that, largely because we've got a number of new faces sitting on this board. And we thought you all would find it helpful in terms of, well, what was approved? So we tried to answer that question up front for you.
And Ken, for your question for CDOT, they did send a referral comment letter back in 2022 in September. So the biggest comment that I see here is a revised drainage report shall be submitted, and a couple other CDOT comments,
So,
but
some, a conditional approval, basically.
for sure, yeah, but at the end of the
Not
day,
just saying no.
right, at the end of the day, an access permit will be needed, which the applicant is working towards, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
With that, I'll invite the applicant to come up, the microphone, state your name and,
Chuck Crum, and I'm with MBE, we represent Mike. This has taken way too long. And I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. But, right now, we're 99.5% there. We've had 3 valves and now we have to do an easement for our water line and we've gotten that done. So everything is ready for the city and the state is just, it's my understanding, backed up. And so he said he's 60% there, and I talked to him a couple weeks ago and I was gonna have it, but I just followed up today and then he got back and just said it's in the queue and we're going for it, so. It's gonna be a good project, but we'd like to start. And as far as that goes, after we would recommend that you approve this so we can continue on and get some taxes and have a nice looking building that you really can't see, I guess, from the highway too well because of that cliff and that. But we'd recommend approval. And then after, if you call a vote, then Mike would just like to make just a couple comments, and if that's okay.
he wants to make comments now or after we,
It doesn't matter.
you're certainly welcome to make comments at this point.
Go back to that picture where it goes east and west, where you can see that
Sure.
big pile of dirt, please.
Yes.
I have a little bit of a heartburn about certain things, and I know there's codes and there's regulations, there's all that stuff that you guys have to support the city. But I wanna show you a picture, so.
It's thinking, Mike, just give me 1 second.
Yeah, the internet's really slow in here today. Slide 4.
You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
It's this one.
There you go. The one more.
This one, Mike, or the site plan?
That one is fine, that one is fine, right there. Okay, my thing is, I wanna ask you guys to really look at this. What the city or somebody is making me build a sidewalk from the gas station, the entrance, all the way over the top and stop right there at Youth Pass and Grab. That sidewalk won't ever be used. There's no other sidewalk. So that's gonna cost me about $35,000 to do that sidewalk. I suggested a long time ago. That looks like crap, that pile of dirt in the front. I asked, can I slope it a little bit with some trees, make it look. When you drive, you don't see that, you see something nice. I'd rather spend the money to put something nice out there and make also my place better. Than to build a sidewalk over the top. That means that sidewalk's gonna come up, see that the tree is? A little further and it stops right at the edge. A Youth Passing Grade. Nobody will ever see it, nobody will ever walk on it. Does not make sense. If it makes sense to you guys, I'll do it. But if I can spend the money on making that facial dirt, slope it a little bit, maybe put some retaining, those 2x2s by 4s. They look nice, the rocks. Stack it 3 feet high, you don't need no permit, you don't need nothing. And it makes the place look more appealing. So please look into that, if you can just do away with the sidewalk. Let me build something in the front that looks nice for the city. And I'll be more than happy to do that. But if you guys know you gotta do the sidewalk, then I'll do the sidewalk. That's all I have to say, really. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
So I take it at this moment for this vote, we're not considering the request for adjustment or variance for the sidewalk, and then we can take that up perhaps if a variance or something like that is requested. I just want to clarify what.
The sidewalk requirement is part of the original approval. And this was just an extension request. Staff was not aware that Mr. Sarkozy would like to talk about the conditions of the prior approval or the requirements of that. Otherwise, that would have been part of the public notice that we put out with regard to what you all would be hearing and discussing tonight. So there's that particular issue.
So would that be an amendment? If they wanted to pursue that change or?
I believe, this is where our code is complex. I believe it would potentially be a variant to a standard in the regulations.
Okay.
And some of what Mr. Sarkozy is talking about, I'm not 100% sure where the property line sits relative to that cliff face. His property line may very well be back on the very top of that or just over at a skosh. So some of where he's talking about possibly making changes, I believe, might actually be within CDOT right away. So there's some other technical considerations that would need to be looked at and possibly worked out to be able to give you guys good information in terms of what does this mean, what does this look like. But per the city code, you're at a commercial project, the developers are required to put in a sidewalk across the front of that.
Looking at the site plan that was included in the package, I'm not seeing that sidewalk delineated. Maybe I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah, and that site plan, that was with the original CUP approval.
Okay,
So the most recent ones and I can yeah, the construction documents have the sidewalk there, Chuck.
that was a written condition of the original approval.
Yeah, so that was within the approved ordinance, sidewalk was correct.
I guess we can make recommendations to council, but we certainly couldn't overrule an ordinance. And this is just an extension request and public notice was not adequate to consider that tonight.
And I'm taking a really strict approach to public notice and what was noticed and out there for discussion. So I don't know that quite meets that threshold there. And I don't have legal counsel available tonight to run that past them. So I'm uncomfortable from a very strict, perspective of what was noticed. So discussion about amending the conditions of the approval was not noticed.
Just purely the extension is what
Correct.
you understand we're considering tonight.
I don't care what she's saying. I've been dealing with this for 2 years. And you know how the prices go up. It's either CDOT or the city or the architect, and I'm stuck in the middle. After a while, you kind of get frustrated. Is this all worth it? Maybe this is not meant to be. Just so, hey, if you guys want to approach it another time, I'm okay with it. Just look into all the aspects, That's all I'm asking. And I'm not asking to make any decision right now or anything like that, just.
And no one's saying no, but to say yes, we have to have some request in front of us to consider. So we'd have to have whether you would have to work with staff to see whether that's a variance, whether that's an amendment to your site plan, or what form that might take. But once we have an official request to consider, then we can go through the process and review it and make a recommendation to city council on that. So
And I did a little bit more research when all this was going on about CDOT. I just bought another property by Lake George. CDOT owns 60 feet from the center of the road, the left and to the right. Where my dirt is way past the city. In other words, I'm way within my property. Now I don't see that. So, but that's something that maybe Chuck will look. But anyway, I'll shut up right now. Appreciate you guys' time.
I do have a question for you regarding project as a whole. I know it's been a long time coming to this point. Do we have any projected schedules of when we'd see activity on site?
I'm sorry.
I was wondering if you could share with us what your schedule for construction might be once you get approval.
Soon as it gets approved. I have already had Dennis, which is the construction engineer, he's fixing the walk on me because he's been dealing with this now for about 6 months, 7 months, maybe more. I could start a month,
As soon as you get the proper signatures, you'll be ready to go.
Okay.
And
I'm ready to go. I already got the landscaping people, I got the earth mover, when I call it, all the excavating, got everything lined up. I just, right now, I have to wait till, you know, we get all this wrapped up together and then I'll move on.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all of you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a comment to make for the applicant. I urge you very strongly to work with our city staff and understand the procedure you need to go through in order to remove that sidewalk from the plan.
Well, I did that at the very beginning.
Okay, well, I urge you to do it again.
Got it.
We'll do that.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff or discussion at this point?
I have one person online.
Oh, very good. I guess, yes, we open up the public comment. I don't see anybody else in the audience, so my apologies to people online. So if you do have some comments and you're out there and the cloud, please raise your hand. But Karen, if we have a person online.
Well, they're so far not indicating that they would like to speak, but I just wanted to make sure we didn't accidentally overlook.
I
public
appreciate that.
comment. So,
Again, if you'd like to make comments and you're online, Mr. Kennedy, did he make a presence?
He was having trouble logging in, so
Okay.
we just told him, don't worry about it, and we'll see you next time.
It's all reasonable. But nobody in the audience wishing to speak, nobody online wishing to make comment. I guess we'll close public comment at this time. And there's not much to rebuttal to, so again, any questions for staff or I guess the applicant at this point? Any comments? I guess my one concern is that the application expired in June. And now we're in August asking for an extension. I think he's been putting good effort into it, working with staff for the timeframes. So I'm not inclined to rescind. Or I'm inclined to grant the extension so they can continue with the project.
Yeah, that was my one thing, was that gap from the time it expired to they filed their request. But after hearing tonight, you know, where they're at on it and stuff, I'm perfectly satisfied with that.
No further comments or discussion? Guess we'll be looking for a motion.
I'll move that the planning commission approve the extension and recommend that the city council grant the 2-year extension to the conditional use permit and site plan. Then the approval resolution shall say clearly that the development is still subject to all the conditions and dimensional standards specified with the original approval.
I'll second.
who seconded?
Me.
Thank you.
Very good. Did we take a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Jared Newcomb,
I agree. I'm not saying.
uh,
I approve.
Larry Larson,
Yes.
Don Hoyne,
Yes.
Cole Middleton,
Yes.
and Chair Hartsfield
Yes,
and Don DeZellem.
Yes.
very good. That concludes the public hearings this evening. We had on the agenda a work session, which we are not going to have this evening. Staff needs to
Need more time, that short turnaround between meetings, you know, because after we meet, we effectively have 1 week to pull stuff together. Jen and I continue to work behind the scenes on a variety of things. And we do have scheduled September 11th, where we will be talking to Parks and Recreation Advisory Board about their whole process about how they comment on development applications and such. So that's in the works behind the scene as well as is continuing to try to pull together how to best classify our various application types and get that into a format where you guys can take a good look at that. So it's just a heavy lift. Thank you for your grace.
Certainly.
Chair, if I could, for the applicants here tonight too, on Fred's Towing, we're scheduled to go in front of the city council on September 5th for this extension request. So I just wanted to make sure that's on the record as well.
Hey, any reports, Karen?
I don't have anything else this evening.
Are we planning on meeting on the 12th?
Yes, we are. You do have a development case in front of you. And the agenda will reflect a possible work session. And that may be more, I got a couple things where I want to take just the commission's pulse on, because that's a little awkward to trap people there for an item and that one may be a little longer in terms of length and demands on your time. So primarily a development case that evening. At the moment, we don't have anything current planning wise on the second meeting in September. So very likely have a more robust work session that particular meeting.
Very good. Any comments from the commission?
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. It's 7:01. Meeting's now adjourned.